Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I just wanted to go over a brief video just going over my first impressions on Brighter Shore after the very first week, as it did end up launching 1 week from today. So, as far as our progress so far, we have been going for an absurd amount of time, 115 hours so far in a week. We played 24 hours straight on launch day and pretty much 12 hours since every single day. And of course, a little bit off stream. We've just been streaming it all here on this YouTube channel. And I just kind of want to give my thoughts on just overall where the game is and everything. This game has quickly become my new 10-year addiction. The other game that I was playing primarily on this channel ended up just hitting their 10-year anniversary. And I always joke that this Brighter Shores would end up being my 10-year addiction because I've been always looking for that like kind of MMO that's kind of been like this. And Brighter Shores has pretty much been everything I could have wanted and more. For any of you that don't know, of course, Brighter Shores is made by Andrew Gower, which might sound familiar as he made a small little MMO called, Runescape that still runs to this day. Of course, also in the last year ended up maxing out a hardcore Ironman, as well as getting multiple boss kill counts and collection log being in the top 25 as well. So overall, also you get like 1.3 million hour shafts apparently from AFKing Redwoods for an entire week. Still no beaver, by the way, still no beaver. But anyways, of course, Andrew Gower has ended up making the OG Runescape back in the day. He ended up making Brighter Shores, and it does tell. There are a lot of similarities between the two. I wouldn't really say that Brighter Shores is really intended to replace old school RuneScape or RuneScape in any way, shape, or form. Of course, they can easily coexist or even play them simultaneously if you're AFKing one compared to the other, as there are plenty of AFK methods in both games. Obviously, all the main ones in old school RuneScape between combat, redwoods, anything else you might be doing, and the other ones comparatively in this game being things like, well, cooking that we're doing right now, a lot of processing skills, pretty slow, or take a while to AFK time. AFK raids in the fourth zone where you can just run into a house, kill everything, and you can get a few minutes AFK. So they both have that kind of aspect where you can kind of play them a bit more as a passive game. One thing that I really liked about Brighter Shores in that regard, as far as playing it as a passive game, is you can like really play it as a passive game. They have a bunch of things in every single region, passive activities that you can do. Let's just say, for example, the combat in Zone 3, because I've been needing to upgrade it for one of the quests that exists in the game. But basically, there's a bunch of passive activities that you can end up doing, and you essentially just go to that activity, log out, and when you come back, you just get a bunch of gold, a bunch of XP, or in the case of some of them, various resources that you could use for other AFK activities. And then there's like this whole chain reaction where you might do some AFK activities in order to do other AFK activities, and it's like true ultra AFK. Like you log out for 8, 10, 12 hours because you sleep, you go to work, whatever, and you still get progress in the game, which I really like, as even though we've been completely no-lifing this game so far, it basically allows you, to get progress while you sleep, progress while you work, progress while you're just away for whatever reason for a long duration of time. And you're still making progress on whatever goal you have. Let's say, for example, like right now we're trying to get the quest done in chapter 3, so we really need our stonemason, blacksmith, bone wright, and mind fighter to be higher. So what I did last night, I'm not sure if it's particularly efficient, but I went to like this observatory thing, and it didn't make that much money, but just for sleeping over the night, I got like what, 10k, 15k, whatever it was, EXP, just for like a good healthy 8-9 hour sleep or so. So it's really nice because we still got closer to the goal that we're trying to do while not even playing the game at all. One other system that works out pretty well is you might notice this other meter over here that kind of keeps ticking up, this knowledge meter. Pretty much anything that you do that's active in the game will end up giving you XP towards this, and this is what you use to unlock these like passive activities that you can do while you're not even logged into the game, just logged out and not even like here. But yeah, you can unlock these with these points, and they have different tiers. You can unlock future ones, and of course, obviously, the higher they go, the more money they make, the more XP they end up having, or the more useful resources that you end up getting from the activity itself. And one thing that's really nice is that you can actually convert all these into just straight up XP. I can't show this since we don't have a full bar right now, but you can put it into any skill above 20, aka all of them if you have them above 20, and it just gives a huge XP burst to whatever you are currently working on, so whatever your goal might be. You can also convert it for cash, but other than in like super early game, I didn't really find much of a need to really do it. You might need to do it like 2 or 3 times as soon as you get to chapter 2 and everything, but for the most part, I haven't really found much of a need to end up doing it. Speaking of which, I should probably mention then the chapter system. I have personally not minded this chapter system at all, how it's divided and everything. I know it's probably one of the biggest pieces of contention within the game, but honestly, I really like it. It basically makes every single zone feel like a new area. Essentially, if you're coming from like something like RuneScape, it's basically like if you combine combat and Slayer together, instead of having to go all the way to like 70 combat, 100 combat before you even really realistically start Slayer, like you would in something like old school RuneScape. They simply combine them both together, so you start all the way from level 0 and simultaneously work on both of them. Essentially, there is a range of enemies that you can kill at any given time. Let's go to Mindfighter as another example. Like, as far as the ones that we still get full XP from, because you get slightly less if you go for super weak enemies. But as far as our range, we can go all the way from a level 16 at 41, all the way to, if we really feel ambitious, to trying to kill a level 54. And of course, it also gives you a first time bonus for anything in this game the first time you end up killing it, to kind of encourage you, like, hey, go move on to the next thing, or at least try going once. Like, if we want to try killing this 49 right now, you know, if we feel ambitious, we do get rewarded for it, not just for, you know, the one singular kill, but also for the first time XP bonus. Forget exactly how much it is. Feels like 5 times, 10 times, whatever is. But, you know, it just gives you a nice little burst that can end up helping you out as far as getting your level up, and kind of encourage you to try to take on harder enemies and everything. Let's go and put that right over there. So, what are we going on about now? So, I get so distracted so quickly from that. We are doing this slide. This is post-commentary. I'm just cooking this. It's just pretty passive activity. Oh, we're almost there on the next XP bar thing. But, yeah, basically, as far as combat between zone, as many of you may know, it isn't a full reset. Basically, how combat works is there is combat for every single zone. So if I go and bring out our quartermaster right now, I believe I'm currently wearing what zone right now? I'm currently wearing zone... Can't even tell based on this. Oh yeah, I'm currently wearing zone 3 because we're doing a bunch of combat there. That's just a couple of my spear weapons, because every single weapon has a different damage type. So depending on what you need to fight, like if they're weak to necrome, or if they're weak to arbore, or if they're weak to ice, so on and so forth, you end up using the corresponding weapon to whatever their weaknesses to try to do more damage. Though sometimes just using your strongest overall weapon can be the better way if it just has really high physical damage. But essentially, every single zone has its own gear. If you bring the wrong gear to the wrong zone, it's like 90% less effective, or something similar to that. So it does encourage you to, you know, re-gear and have specific gear for every single specific zone. This can be a little bit jarring at first, because basically as soon as you go to zone 2 from zone 1, you're starting essentially at level 0. You have very minimal gear. You need to go basically full restart in a sense, but not truly full restart, as you can still, you know, use the potion from chapter 1, stuff like that. But it is a little bit jarring, I would say, like right at the initial bit. But I really like the amount of extra adventure that it gives, kind of making every single zone fresh, and it makes it so every single person basically has to go through the whole same system. You can't just like go and hope port, get all the way to level 100 and then like skip all these lower enemies. Well, you can skip some, but you know, you wouldn't skip like every single one of the lower enemies, just go like straight to fighting like this level 47 or something. You know, you have to go through the whole progression system, and every single person has to, you know, progress that as far as their progression. That's one other thing that's pretty nice too that I actually really like. One thing that's cool, which I can't actually show in this cooking thing, but I might as well just go outside real quick to show it, is you really go through the progression system with everyone. Even if you're like getting ahead of other people, you can still you still train at the same spots. So basically how a lot of things work in this game is that you get upgraded. Like this is a weak level 16 Wraith, but you know, once we get a little bit higher, it'll be a way higher one. It'll be like higher than this guy, like level 57, 58, whatever it is. But essentially people train at the exact same location. Like right here I have a bunch of level 16 rocky eels, but someone with a really high fishing level might have like a level 50 something eel here. And of course you'll also see like brand new players here that might be at like literally level 2 trying to catch the level 2 eel. So pretty much everyone, like this guy, he's probably catching level 2 eels right now, but it basically makes it so every single person is on the same kind of training spots. So it kind of forces, like, you know, veteran players and stuff like that to basically communicate with brand new players, because it's a pretty early starting area. So even if you're level 400 something fishing, let's see, what's the highest eel in the game? Let's go all the way down. Let's say you're something like let's see, can I even find it? Eel, what looks like an eel here? Something here that looks like an eel. Where are you? Where are you? Somewhere here is an eel. There it is. Let's say you're 323 fishing. Guess where you're catching this eel? Right here, where my level 16s are, or where these person's level 2s are, or whatever their level is at. You'd be catching it at the same location that every single other person is. You could be like someone just fresh off of the tutorial like minutes ago might be catching level 2s here while you're catching these 323s. It's something I actually like. That could be a piece of complaint in that, you know, everything's kind of samey because they, you know, you just go to the same locations, just upgrades. But it makes it easier to find everything, and of course makes it a little bit more communal in the sense, because every single person is, you know, gathering together regardless of what their level is. It's not like you're going to go to like a super ultra out leveled zone where you know, only ultra end game players are. Well, there might be some kind of piece of content like that, in the future. As far as most of the training spots and stuff like that, it's really communal in the sense that every single person, regardless of level, is going to be at the same training spots, and they'll be using something that is efficient to them, or it basically scales to whatever they're currently at. And I really, really like that aspect. One other thing I think was handled pretty well in this game is the daily system. I'm not sure if you can currently unlock more than 2, and if there is, I really should go do that, or if this is like a future thing, or however on if this is going to be done in the future. But basically, there are a bunch of skills in the game that you can do ventures for. Ventures can be basically summarized as dailies. Of course, boo, dailies. Generally, people don't really like dailies. However, one thing that is pretty nice about Brighter Shores is there is a cap to how many dailies you can do. So let's say they eventually add 50 dailies to the game, or 100 dailies to the game, or 1,000. Well, that doesn't necessarily matter. Like in a normal game, like I know RS3 has it pretty bad. I haven't actually tried it myself, but even in something like old school Runescape, if you want to do every single daily, there's like almost like a dozen if you really want to do all of them. Even some of the ones that are a little bit less valuable, but even just like the more valuable ones, you're still rocking around. Especially if you want to throw a herb run in there, a tree run in there, everything else, it starts to really add up. But one really nice thing about these ventures is regardless of how many dailies they ever add to this game, there is basically a hard cap of 6 dailies that you can ever end up doing. They generally have about a 12-hour, 24-hour timer, depending on what you want. These grapes, for example, are 24-hour. These things, which are used literally for blast mining, like in old school RuneScape, are for 12-hour. And they give you a bunch of XP for your skill and a various resource. Like this gives the explosives that you can do for blast mining while giving you a bunch of mining XP, which of course helps also with mining. And this was from the merchant. So we ended up paying a small amount of gold to get a very huge discount on these grapes. I think it's like almost 70% off compared to if we bought it in a store. And then when these 24 hours goes up, we get ourselves all of our grapes that we paid for, as well as a huge XP drop for the merchant skill. So it's a really good way of handling dailies. I feel like is really underrated in this game, as it makes it so we can upskill really well. I feel like a lot of things in Brighter Shores was basically made and designed for upscaling. Something like this, made so regardless how many dailies they ever add, they'll be fine. A system like this, where it has a bit of a reset every single chapter, not full reset, but one other thing I didn't mention about this, you can attune gear to other chapters, which is really, 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 really useful. For example, let's go to our unattuned. If we go over to our quartermaster right now. So I have, let's say, I ended up making this shield a while back, this level 48 shield. And we also have this 26 shield. So this 26 shield, I am currently level 26 guard in Hopeport. So one thing that you can end up doing is going and attuning this shield to chapter 1. And I made this in chapter 3. I did not obtain this in chapter 1. I used the skills that you have in the chapter 3 crafting system, where you can make weapons and shields currently. And I ended up making this at one point. I think it was a spear or something. I don't remember exactly where it ended up originally from, other than the skill itself of blacksmith. But we made it at some point. And now, even though I made it here, like a long while ago, all I need to do is go to a altar thingy to go attune it, and then boom, it'll be locked to this chapter. Once you do attune it, it is locked to that chapter, but you can just make another one, and it's not that big a deal. We also have things like, this shield I made like a long while back when I was just training the skill, and I was like, hey, I got the spear shield, I might as well save it for later, and then we can just attune it to any chapter when we end up hitting level 48. So if we end up doing that to Chronopolis or to the mines, we'll, have ourselves a nice shield. And even though I made it in chapter 3, yes, I could attune it to chapter 3, but I can also attune it to chapter 4. And even when chapter 5 or something comes out, I can just make a bunch of weapons and everything else, pre-make them. They're going to be adding special attack weapons that 4-star weapons can only use. So I can pre-make a bunch of 4-star weapons and then go and, be ready to go, having every single spec in the entire game. Almost like Dragon Weaponry when it first came out way back in OOG RuneScape. It'll almost feel like that over again when we end up getting that, going from no spec weapons to, every single one, as long as they're 4-star, having a spec weapon. So really curious to see how that will end up panning out. And yeah, you're never really ever starting fresh whenever you go into a new zone. There's always a bunch of things that you do, especially as you get further and further in the game, that end up synergizing. Like carpentry from chapter 2, you use that for the 3 main weapon skills in chapter 3, the bone wright, the blacksmith, the stonemason. Alchemy, obviously, you get supplies for this from literally every single chapter, and the potions are useful for every single chapter, from XP pots to just healing potions, damage potions, stuff like that. It covers the whole array, even repels in a sense with fear potion. And then there are a few other synergies. I don't know, what's a really other good one? I'm trying to think of one other one that really goes. A lot of them have like in-chapter synergy in a sense, which of course makes sense. Like, obviously fishing into cooking, all the gathering skills into herb lore, wood cutting into carpentry. Some of the more obvious ones, mining and smithing, as well as mining and stonemason. One of my favorite overall skills, I would say, as far as the full package that any chapter has, would probably have to be the final chapter, or at least, the final chapter currently at launch, in that we have merchant, leatherworker, detective, and watch person. It's probably the main one that I feel like they should really do going forward as far as like the kind of synergies that they can end up ultimately having, because we end up having, let's start from the top. So detective basically synergizes with almost everything here, particularly merchant and watch person. You can do raids that give you both combat and detective at the same time. You can, as you're doing the merchant skill, find thieves that are at various stalls and then stop them as you're doing your merchant runs. And just end up going and also you can just trade it directly. You can just do things that only specifically get the skill up and not even multi-skill it. And it just has really, really nice overall synergy as far as the entire city is concerned. And merchant, probably my overall favorite skill in the entire game. If you haven't given this one a shot, if you have been playing, I definitely advise doing so. It seems like a walking simulator at first, but it's probably the most skill-intensive skill in the entire game, in that you have to figure out on the fly what your route is going to be in order to go find all of your merchant stalls. So you have to figure out where you need to buy from, where you need to sell to, and try to figure out your most efficient route. And it keeps drip feeding you, new routes, new things that you can end up buying, better EXP rates if you want to try going for them. And you just kind of have to keep thinking on the fly, like, how do I basically synergize these together? Eventually you find some patterns, some things that work better than others, but it's probably the most, like almost every single skill in this game, I would definitely say is a brain off skill that you can, you do it on the side, you could do it on second monitor content. Look at what we're doing right now. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you could easily, you could be doing whatever your main game is and playing this on the side or whatever. You can also still primary play it. There's plenty of things that are click intensive enough that you can, but it's one of those things that is generally pretty like chill. It's a really relaxing, has that like cozy vibe kind of thing to it. But merchant is definitely one of those where you kind of have to try hard for if you want those EXP rates. It's definitely not required, but it's one of those skills that definitely has like a skill ceiling as far as like, like actually needing to think and plan and actually actively engage with the game, compared to something like this where, really chill, just grab some food, buy from the stall, prep it, cook it, you're good to go. Beyond that, anything else to really mention? I'm trying to think what, oh yeah, we also got this other point. I'm not sure if I showed this, but yeah, you can dump this XP into whatever you feel like. Like right now, I am very much in need of needing to get all the requirements we need for Chapter 3. So right into Bone Right you go, and then boom, we're in Chapter 1 getting Chapter 3 XP. And that's another thing you can do too. Like Merchant is actually particularly good for this, if you really want to try hard at it. You get a lot of knowledge. You get knowledge from any active activity you do, even if it's an AFK activity kind of thing like this. As long as it's not like the true like log out AFK kind of activities, you will be getting these points. And there are some that give more than others, like the merchant skill, and I feel like combat too, if you can kill really quickly with like a good weapon, if you have like a 4-star or really good 3-star kind of weapon. But basically these knowledge points allow you to, in any chapter, train any other chapter, which is I find really convenient. So for example, obviously we're cooking in Chapter 1, getting our cooking up for quests that eventually requires level 61. However, we are training the skills we still need in Chapter 3, which is probably my main primary goal at the moment. So, I don't know. It just ends up working out really well. So, a billion notifications still going. It's really good about notifications, too. I feel like it's kind of snappy with it as far as all the things. The chat's a little bit weird, though, at the current state of the game. I definitely have some nitpicks here and there. I would say my biggest complaint at the current moment in time... Actually, what is my biggest complaint? Honestly, I have just, like, so many positive things to say about this game that... I don't know. What is my biggest complaint in the current state of the game? There's definitely a lot of things that feel a little bit weird. As far as the scaling on a lot of levels, like the 32 carpentry grind that's pushed on you pretty early on in the game and stuff like that, just feels like really out of place, as if they could have made it like a 20-25 requirement, stuff like that. Skilling in general, as far as XP curve, it does seem a little bit slow, but if you're playing this game, you're in for the long haul. You're in for like the super grindy. This is definitely not a game if you hate grinds. You will be grinding in this game, but that's kind of one that appeals on it. It's one of those like endless content kind of grinds, and also I didn't really make much allude to it, but many of you may know if you've ever entered this game. But of course, max level is not like 99 or 100. No, it keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. And it goes all the way to 500, which is kind of insane. I'm not sure what the XP curve is to like get there. I think someone said earlier it was like 1.8 billion. I haven't actually confirmed that, but that sounds about right. 1.8 billion. That might sound like absurdly ridiculous, especially if you're coming from old school RuneScape where max is like 200 mil. But it's mostly because of how the XP curves. Like I'm pretty sure some end game XP rates are going to be like over a mil an hour, 2 mil an hour. Plus you throw down like things like the knowledge points, and that just gives you a huge boost as well. That scales based on your level and everything. So it shouldn't end up ultimately being that bad. But anyways, guys, I guess that's my overall first impressions. Kind of all over the place, kind of just rambling, but that's how my brain goes sometimes. But anyways, if you guys do enjoy, as I mentioned earlier, we do stream this game 12 hours every single day here on this YouTube channel. So if you ever want to stop by, say hi, ask any questions. Also, feel free in the comment section, of course, if you want to drop any questions over there. Yeah, feel free to do so if you have any questions about the game. We definitely have been playing a bit more casually. Our hours wouldn't say so, but, you know, I'm kind of trying to explore the entire game, experience everything for the first time. I'm trying to finish all the quests right now, but gosh, 5-star quests right now have some of the most absurd requirements, but, you know, we're working on all of them for completion's sake. Also trying to prep for Zone 5, getting all the 4-star weapons, trying to get all of, you know, basically just prep so the second we get in there, we're just ready for PvP, we're ready for combat, we're ready for, you know, everything that has to offer. But even if we weren't, or, you know, even if we are, we're still going to be training alongside people who aren't prepped at all. Like, there will be people who have, like, zero prep whatsoever for Chapter 5. They're just going to walk in blinds, not really know what to do. Might not even know that 4-star weapons are the only ones that have special attacks, or at least what's currently planned anyways. And, you know, I'll still be training alongside them on day one because, you know, how the areas work. It'll be like the true stress test of how the system works when the next zone comes out, because, yeah, we might get ahead of people quicker because we'll have prepped gear, we'll have a bunch of stuff that we can attune, stuff like that, where other people might not necessarily. But, you know, initially, we're still going to be training on the same level 0s, the same level 8s, the same level, you know, whatevers, as we progress through all of the skills. And we'll also be able to make armor by then, so we'll be able to truly max out, like, all of our rarities, all of our everything. I'll be able to have, like, full 4-star until the eventual whatever 5-star comes from, like, bossing or anything else. That's another thing, too, I guess I should mention. There isn't much combat in this game, so if you're, like, really combat-oriented, it's definitely a very skilling-oriented game, which is also one other thing I didn't mention. Gosh, this video is going to go on forever if I keep going from tangent to tangent. But the other thing to mention, too, is I absolutely love that current best in slot, you know, whatever your best option at any given time is, generally, as far as, like, realistic best option, is all crafted by yourself, for the most part. It feels so nice. Aside from these 2 4-star weapon drops that I got in Chapter 3, every single other thing here we end up crafting at some point. This weapon over here, this, all these armor, actually, no, we can't do the armors, but the shield over there, basically you only do weapons and shields at the moment. But, you know, you end up crafting a lot of this stuff and end up utilizing it. And once we have Chapter 5, like, you're going to be running basically in full gear that you essentially handcrafted yourself. I remember when I tried Albion Online a while back, the over push on PvP and, like, mega clans kind of pushed me away from that game when I ended up trying it initially. But luckily, you know, Brighter Shores doesn't have that. It's mostly like a solo game right now. Pretty much everyone's an Ironman. Trading's not even in the game yet until they end up implementing it, though you do unlock it in Chapter 4. But I know when I tried that, one thing I really liked is, you know, it was basically, like, from scratch, making all of our own gear. And Brighter Shores does that. Pretty much everything you ever use, or a good majority of it, unless you get lucky on some drops, you're going to be, like, handcrafting yourself. And I really like that aspect. I'm not a big fan of things like, that's one thing I really have against old school RuneScape, as far as old school RuneScape, is obviously we're a hardcore Ironman. So if I want, let's say, like, you know, Twisted Bow, or, you know, a Bow Ferrodinin, or, you know, any kind of weapons like that, even just blowpipe or something like on the lower end, I have to go and farm a specific boss. You don't simply just craft. Like, for example, I'm cutting a tree right now, but there isn't any bow in the game that uses these redwood logs at all. There's not even a bow you make, let alone, like, a best in slot bow or decent bow. Like, there's just nothing. There's nothing you'd even do with it. But it's just really weird that, like, in a game like that, I hate that every single thing is like boss drop, boss stop, boss drop, boss stop. I can't speak right now. You know, every single thing is an RNG drop from a various boss. And while there is still RNG in, like, the crafting system and everything, as far as, like, the rarity that you end up getting and all that, it's still just feels so rewarding when you go mine your own ore, you go smith your own ore, you then go make that into a thing, and then you immediately go attune it to a chapter and literally start stabbing or whacking something with it. And it just feels so satisfying compared to, oh, I just went 3 times over the drop rate at this boss and I finally got the item, or hey, I got, like, 5 kill count and got lucky. You know, that does feel good, like, you know, when you get, like, super lucky. But the inverse, when you go, like, 3, 4, 5 times over drop rate. Actually, I want to show one real quick. This is mostly something I guess only people from the other game will know. But I feel like there's enough overlap that, you know, there's enough old school RuneScape people out there. Let's say, for example, I am getting absolutely tired. Where even are they? I think they're in this tab. Let's say, for example, I want myself a pair of Burning Claws. Where even are they? Should be green log. Yeah, let's say I want Burning Claws. I really want Burning Claws because I need a mid-game spec weapon, because I currently don't have any. I don't have, like, Dragon Claws from Chambers of Xeric. I haven't really bothered getting anything else. Our main spec weapon might be something like a DDS right now. So they added Tormented Demons to kind of be an in-between. Well, what if you go dry? What if you get a pair of Burning Claws at 300 kill count? Also, keep in mind, this was all at 1 in 500 after they buffed it. It used to be like 1 in 650. 100% of these kills was at 1 in 500. But let's say, hypothetically, you get your first claw at 300 and don't get your synapse. And then you proceed to go 2,258, while also, I believe, still having an active Slayer task for them that I can't be bothered to do because we're so dry. And you still do not have your mid-game spec weapon. It's stuff like this that is... I hate it so much. Like, once you finally get the drop, it's so satisfying. But we're like 3 times over drop rate. I know technically if you do it based on the whole, like, 500 thing, it's a little bit like only 2 times. But, since our last Burning Claw, we're like 3 times over drop rate on our next Burning Claw. It just feels so bad. But, in this game, the crafting system, like, even if you don't get, like, what you need, you can just settle on the rarity below. Like, let's say I'm trying to craft, like, a 3-star real quick. I just need to upgrade for something. I need, like, a different damage type. Here's just different damage types, different weaknesses, stuff like that. Like, I might need ice weakness for one, but then burning weakness for another. But let's say I keep getting unlucky, and it's like, oh, I want to get a 2-star. It's like, okay, I can just run a 2-star for a little bit, and it's not going to matter. And, you can get the 3 stars. You can eventually make 4 stars, but, you can use the tier below, and it's, it's not going to make or break you. You just go, end up making it. Doesn't take that long. And boom, you got yourself something to use. But you're never going to go like ultra dry. And even if you do, like, oh, I'll just settle for the rarity below. It'll be a little bit weaker for a little bit of time, but I'll eventually be able to go make another upgrade or get a drop that's lucky, and it won't really matter because of course you still have drops in this game. You can still get lucky and get insane stuff, but you don't need to depend on it, I think, is the thing. Like, if I don't get those Burning Claws, like, what am I supposed to use for spec weapon? A DDS? A Dragon Dagger kind of special? It's just really weird, because if you don't get the drop, like, there's no alternative. It's not like I'm going to get, like, a lower tier Burning Claw or something that I can go and use. You just simply get the drop, or you don't. But in this game, if you get unlucky, it's like, okay, I'm just going to have to go 1 tier lower and just use this instead. And it just feels so much more satisfying. You can just settle on something weaker for a little bit, and, once you do get the better thing later down the line, it's like, oh yeah, you still feel the reward of it. It's not like you get a 4-star in this game, you feel it. At least in the current state of the game, maybe like way down the line you won't. But if you get a 4-star right now, it's like, oh, a 4-star, what is this thing? Even if it's a low level, because honestly, they last a lot longer than some of the other ones, as far as like damage, armor increase, stuff like that. But, oh no, it just feels so much more satisfying this way, at least personally for me. But anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below, or anything you want to comment on, or say how bad my opinions are and everything. But I don't know, this is kind of just a ramble video just for my thoughts. I haven't covered a single video on Brighter Shores yet. I do plan to at some point, after the ultra addiction of trying to play this game every second I possibly have goes away a little bit. Obviously, I'll still be playing for a long haul. We're here for months, years. Who knows? Maybe even our next decade addiction, our next 10-year addiction. Honestly, as long as Andrew Gower is still supporting this game, I will be here. As long as the servers are up, I don't care if there's like 1,000 people playing. I will still be here every single day. And what's really nice too is, of course, I mentioned it a little bit, but Andrew Gower is such a good developer. This is the changelog yesterday. Like, we've had an update almost like every single day with stuff. But basically, the community was like, hey, we don't want multi-boxing. And he's like, okay, multi-boxing's banned, which is basically doing multiple accounts at once. Like in old school RuneScape, you can have like 2, 3, 5, 10 billion accounts going at once. Basically, it kind of ruins the economy a little bit as far as trading and everything. But normally, devs keep it in because money. Because, if there's 10 people paying like $14 a month for membership or whatever it is now, 15, 14, whatever absurd number they're currently charging. Also, only $6 a month for Brighter Shores. And the first 2 chapters, 100% free. Which is like half the game at the moment. But, Brighter Shores right now, obviously the price will go up, but Brighter Shores is basically the OG RuneScape cost of, $6 a month. Whereas, RuneScape, like, what, 14, 15 a month right now if you pay monthly? Obviously, you could pay yearly for a little bit of a discount, which is what I do on my hardcore. I think it's like, what, $80 a month or something? But still, it's, if you want to do it monthly and have like a bunch of multi-boxing accounts, because you only get 1 account, whereas in Brighter Shores, you get 3 accounts per membership. But, yeah, if you're going to do, like, let's say 10 accounts multi-boxing, that could be $140 if you're not doing it with bonds. Obviously, eventually you'll be able to make as much money that you do it with bonds, which is a whole thing in itself, the whole bond thing. But, like, you will eventually be able to do that. But, your upfront cost to start something like that, if you aren't going to be using bonds, it's so much. But, that's why they do it. Because if people are going to be playing on multiple accounts like that, like they want a hardcore, they want a normal iron, they want an ultimate iron, they want a main account, they want some kind of other, like, weird, restricted snowflake iron or something. Like, every single one of those, like, $14, $14, or something like that. If you're not paying with bonds, if you just kind of started and you want to get into the game, it's like, if you want to start 3 different accounts, boom, that's like $45 right there or so. But, but anyways, to get onto the thing with, so multi-boxing, yeah, that's banned. So you can't do like multiple accounts at once, simultaneously. but because the community kind of wanted that, I'm pretty indifferent to it either way. But it's still a good change, I would say. I also like that he's really anti third-party plugins and everything. Yes, I am using Rune right now, so I guess to some degree hypocritical. But in that sense, I feel like RuneWrite is so broken that you have to use it. You're basically forced to have to use RuneLite. Whereas you're never gonna have to do that in Brighter Shores. Like, you just play the game normally, and you don't have to worry about any kind of other like thing like that. You don't have to worry about like what other like what third party software is like the most broken right now for me to be playing on. You don't have to worry about that. If there is any quality of life that the community wants, Andrew Gower will guarantee add it. Like, let's see, as requested by so many players, single click actions now exist. This didn't exist at launch. You used to have basically right click on everything. So when you clicked, regardless of click, it would just be right click like this, where you have like two different options. Like, but now it's like Runescape, where boom, you click on something and it immediately does whatever the primary first action is. No menu entry swapper yet, but they'll probably add that at some point if enough people request for such a feature. But like, we don't need a third party client. Andrew Gower will implement anything that isn't like absurdly broken, that is like quality of life for the community. Andrew Gower will do it, as well as his team. Like, he has been so good on community feedback when it comes to improvements to the game. Like, now you can move 2 squares on the map. Before, you couldn't click on the mini map at all to move. Then it was 1 tile or 1 room away. Now it's 2 rooms away, so you pretty much have full access to it. Obviously, you can't click all halfway across the map or something. Obviously, that'd be too strong. You'd be able to just AFK for minutes just walking across the map. But there's enough teleports that doesn't really matter. But anyways, but yeah, any kind of quality of life, we don't need third-party clients. He's simply just going to implement it. Anything that the game needs, most likely, as long as it's not like super ridiculously broken. So I'm really looking forward to that. And overall, anyways, I think this video has gone on enough. I think you guys get the gist. Feel free to leave a like on the video. It helps out a lot and is greatly appreciated. If you have any opinions about the game yourself, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Of course, these are just simply my own opinions from my ultra biased opinion on things. But yeah, feel free to leave your own. Have you been enjoying the game? How many hours do you have? Have you, I don't know, what goals do you have in the game currently? And I don't know, if you didn't like the game, like, I don't know, what made you quit? Because this is definitely a game that you're either going to love it or hate it. But it definitely hooked me. But I can definitely understand like people after like a few hours being like, this system doesn't quite work for me or whatever else. But I don't know. It's free to play. You can play the first 2 chapters. I highly advise giving it a shot if you're like an old school RuneScape player or something like that. Or, just interested in the game in general. Because obviously I feel like 80% of this player base, it comes from that origin. But, there's still a bunch of other people who are just looking for a fun new MMO. And I'm definitely in that category as well. And this is definitely not a replacement to old school. You could do easily both at once. Like there's no problem doing both at once. Here, click tree. There you go. Have your tree back. Good job. Oh, I have full inventory. No wonder why he's not cutting. Like, wait, anyways. But, it's not a replacement. It's simply just its own experience, and it's a really good experience, or at least I think so. I've been enjoying it. I definitely got addicted to the gameplay loop, and I suggest you try it as well. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you for watching.